made on time. A new bill looks to shield homeowners' credit ratings after a loan modification. Is the legislation fair or unfair? Representative Jackie Speier is a Democrat from California who recently introduced the bill. Mark Calabria, Director of Financial Regulation Studies at the Cato Institute, thinks the bill is a bad idea. So, first, Ms. Speier, you defend it, and then we'll attack it.
All right. That sounds good. You know, this is just about protecting homeowners. If homeowners have modified their loans with their lender, they have a new contract, they're complying with that contract, they should not have their credit score dinged because they're doing the right thing. And this is just to protect them in an environment right now where even though they're doing the right thing, they are being reported to the credit reporting agencies, and it could actually drop their credit scores by as much as 100 points. And we are living in very difficult times, and this is not the time to put that kind of a penalty on homeowners who are just trying to do the right thing.
Mark Calabria, what's wrong with that?
Well, there's a couple things, but I think we should start with remembering the very large problem that injecting politics into credit decisions is one of the things that got us into this crisis. So I wish we would just actually learn from that. But at the end of the day, I think we need to remember a credit score should be nothing but a prediction of the probability of whether this loan will be repaid at all. It's not a moral decision. It's not a political decision. It's a probability. And the fact is that, you know, whether they played by the rules or not, they didn't play by the rules. They did not pay the full obligation of the first mortgage. And we're not saying that's right or wrong. There are lots of good reasons why somebody might not be able to. But the question is, did they? And so the modification is not the same mortgage. If you're paying half of what your mortgage are, you're not paying the original mortgage. And it's also worth keeping in mind that if we get away from this, this is just an attempt to reduce the ability to risk-based price. If you get away from risk-based pricing, average rates for all of us go up. So those of us who have been paying our mortgages on time, who've never gotten a modification, will end up subsidizing those who don't. So I think we should not be trying to mess with, not meddle with what's in the credit score. The credit score should simply just reflect the facts. I think this is a move away from transparency. The fact that this person got a modification, the fact the person did not pay their original mortgage should be reflected. It's a fact. Whether it's a good fact or a bad fact, it's a fact, and that should be in the credit report.
Representative Speier raises a fair point. I mean, first of all, right, it is what it is. You either pay or you didn't pay, and the credit score, the whole point of it is to just give the facts and not to make any sort of a judgment about why you did or didn't pay. Just if you didn't pay, that should be reflected. And Mark makes a fair case, right, that if not, people who did pay, didn't get the modification, could end up paying a higher rate.
Well, first of all, Mark used the word transparent, which is kind of ironic because your credit score and your FICO score is frankly the most untransparent of any score. We can't figure out why our score is at 750 one day and 780 the next, or 650 the next. So transparency is a problem with credit scoring. I think it's very important for us to realize that these are people that had a contract with a lender. They then renegotiated a second contract with the lender, and in each situation they had been paying in a timely fashion. The fact that you've been paying your loan on time and all of a sudden your home is valued less than your mortgage because the value of property has dropped is not your problem. I mean, it is your problem, but you didn't create the problem. The problem was created on Wall Street.
Okay, let's shift gears, and interesting points on both sides. Everyone, please vote in our poll, by the way, on your point of view on that, whether that should or shouldn't count in your credit score. But let's shift to the Jack Welch comment that Mark's been referring to throughout the show. He posted on Twitter about the GOP, about the Republicans. He said Republicans should start talking about what they would do, not about Obama vacation. Time for leadership, not pettiness. Mark, obviously I know you're more on the GOP side of this, given that Jackie is a Democrat. So give me your response to this. Where is here's what we would do, here's our plan, instead of your plan stinks from the Republicans?
Well, I think that they have to do both. I mean, I think it's right for them to criticize where they disagree with the president, where they disagree with current congressional leadership. But I do think they also need to lay out a plan. You know, several, for instance, Congressman Ryan has laid out his plan. You know, Cato, we actually offer solutions all the time. You know, and I would hope that Congress would take many of them in consideration. But I think people need to lay out what cuts they would. And I would actually encourage my friends on the right to say they also need to lay out cuts to defense spending, for instance. They need to lay out what what are they going to do with entitlements? We need to deal with the entitlement problem. We need to do it with the budget. And I think Republicans also have an obligation to at least lay out what would they do to get our economy moving again. So I think those are all very reasonable things to demand. That said, I also do think it's very reasonable to criticize what the current administration is doing wrong.
I want to return to Congresswoman Speier and this notion that the renegotiated mortgage should not impact credit ratings. I'm going to come back to Mark's point and repeat it if I may. You know, they didn't do what they promised they would do the first time around. Shouldn't that be reflected in some way in the credit report?
Well, let me tell you that many of my constituents have been contacting me on the issue, and they're being told by their lender, we will not negotiate a modification until you are late in your payments. Now, these are people that have been paying every month on time and now are being told you need to be in default in order for us to renegotiate and to modify your loan.
Yeah.
It's a serious problem. Let's talk about, you know, the fact that these credit scores are used by prospective employers. These credit scores are also used for lines of credit for small businesses. We are in a crisis in housing in this country. Many of these homeowners were steered to loans in the subprime market when they were qualified for loans in the conventional setting. And, you know, these are loans in the subprime market that went from 3% to 10% in interest rates. That you couldn't afford a 10% interest rate on your home loan right now, and neither could I. So I think that in fairness to all, we should take the side of the homeowner who is doing the right thing, paying in a timely fashion. If they're not paying in a timely fashion, then yes, you should report it to the credit reporting agency.
All right, we have to leave it there. Representative Jackie Speier, Democrat from California. Mark Calabria, Director of Financial Regulation Studies at the Cato Institute.
Oh, guess what's next? Obama killed it yesterday.